The promenade, the people walking, the people talking, facade.
My name is Jason Q. I'm a Chief Inspector with Thames Valley Police, and I work with the South East Regional Crime Unit, and my role, if you like, day to day is with the Violence Reduction Unit. So that's a real meaty subsection of titles, I suppose, of roles, but they all kind of blend into one, and that's to reduce harm through the supply or use of drugs, and it covers, as you would expect, probably people who are found in possession of drugs, through to supply, right the way through to exploitation and county lines and organised crime. I specifically work on diversion, so we divert people from criminal justice. So if someone's found in possession of drugs, we no longer arrest them. We can now divert them to have an assessment and education about what they've been found with, and that destigmatises and provides much stronger social and health outcomes for that individual and also the wider community. I'm also working on larger projects such as naloxone, finding out the availability of naloxone, again destigmatising, and also heroin assisted treatment. So that's a larger project where we widen the gateway, if you like, for people who are most problematic or problematically using heroin to re-access or re-engage into treatment through injectable diamorphine, and that's a proven method of not only increasing recovery, but also reducing organised crime as well. So through a policing lens, we're a huge advocate of heroin assisted treatment, and then also building the evidence base for supervised injection facilities. So that's obviously controversial in some sectors, but actually it's something that the police and public health are working strongly towards.
Why would you say drug policy is important to you?
I think first and foremost, I'm a humanist. It's about recognizing that there are people beneath addiction, people beneath drug use, and we need to see them first, what works for those people, and then deliver a solution. My journey is probably similar to many other police officers, I guess. When you leave school, leave your home environment, you know very little of the world, and then you get to see more of the world, and then you begin to see right before your eyes true vulnerability, true poverty, true inequality, and these things really exist. Police seem to have a role in this. There's an idealistic approach to policing that wants to push people into recovery, abstinence, through enforcement, through court orders, and that simply doesn't work.
Why do you think that drug policy reform is an important conversation that we should be having?
It's crucial. You really do need that open conversation, but also you need to destigmatise drugs as well. You need to destigmatise drug use to have that conversation. People, especially in positions of responsibility, I guess, like police officers, feel threatened, their career damaging threats about not having that conversation in the first place. But actually we need to have these conversations. I'm not radical, I'm not controversial, I'm just speaking the evidence.
When we come on to stigma, we start to get into the real meat of it, and what sort of things do you think are the biggest barriers to drug policy reform?
Yeah, I think it's stigma. Any shift in drug policy is seen as going soft on drugs. So the opposite to soft is hard. So we have this idealistic hard approach to enforcement and drugs, and we're going to eradicate drugs, and we're not going to eradicate drugs. Harm reduction, education, this is what the state should be. This is the duty of the state, isn't it? If we have to intervene in someone in possession of drugs, then this is the way it ought to be.
Jason, you mentioned a bit earlier about the naloxone project that you've got going on at the moment. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, so I'm quite proud of this work because it was developed by an analyst who I work with, submitted freedom of information request really to the South Central Ambulance Service to let us know whenever they administer naloxone in a particular area. So we were able to map the hotspot locations, and we found that there were about, from memory, 2,500 incidents in about 18 months, and we thought, wow, that's a lot of naloxone being it. That's a lot of overdoses on the street. So we're able to firstly identify the hotspot locations for increased harm reduction. So we're able to share that information with the drug service to, improve outreach in those particular areas. And then we also identify business properties in those locations. Now, the overdoses were frequently, not in all cases, but frequently in areas of like high footfall, like begging areas, homelessness areas, and locations such as like Timpson's or Greg's were also prevalent in those locations as a good business model. So we've approached Timpson's to potentially train and equip their staff within their shops, because with naloxone we have another big issue here about stigma, because if a drug user and a friend use together, their friend is unlikely to ring 999 for fear of prosecution if their friend overdoses. But what we want more than anything else is the ambulance to be called and naloxone to be administered straight away. And we're also working on enabling police officers to, on a voluntary basis, to train and carry naloxone at their local drug service. But yeah, naloxone is an absolute lifesaver.
The sorts of people, hopefully, that are going to be engaging with these are exactly the sorts of citizens that would love to carry naloxone and be more aware about it. Is there any way that we as individuals can educate ourselves on how to use it and become carriers of naloxone?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really great question, actually, because you could attend your local drug service. So if you just Google or look up your local drug service, they have peer-to-peer training sessions. And more often than not, it'll be free training and they'll give you naloxone for free. Drugs are here. This war on drugs analogy, it's futile. It's harmful. This isn't about going soft on drugs, and there's certainly nothing soft about preventing death.
What do you think we can do as individuals about this?
What we can do is be better informed, but also treat people as people. Have respect for what people are going through. Addiction isn't just a turn on, turn off situation. It's a long, complex road, and it can happen to anyone. And it does happen to anyone.
You talk to you to talk to me. You got some nerve and you're standing up right in front of me. You talk to you to talk to me. I just can't understand those benefits. What are you doing? Too much pain, too much stress, nothing gets